Yeah, so I'm Jim Hanmer. I'm a product management consultant. I spent 2 years as product director at Blinkbox, and prior to that I was working at Microsoft in a variety of roles, technology consulting and also product management on Microsoft Bing, the search engine. Yeah, so if any company has a website or an app, effectively they have a digital product. And product management team is the team that's responsible for owning the vision and design of that product. So they're accountable for delivering the product and making sure there's a clearly defined roadmap of what's going to be built when, but also they're responsible for understanding the market and the competition. So if you look at the role, it's typically got 3 elements to it. First of all, product strategy. So what's the market doing? What's the competition? What are the opportunities? And what do users need? They then have to take all those things and line them up with the business goals of the organisation and come up with a proposition for what digital product to build. So that's strategy. There's then product design. This is all about users, so user experience is quite heavily involved in that side of things. And the purpose of product design is to build a product that users like and meets their needs. Lastly, is really project management. So not all product organisations run the projects, but in my experience it works best if they do. It's all about a single person being accountable for the overall delivery and success of the project, plus having some key performance indicators or KPIs for exactly what the product should be doing and how you know whether it's been successful. So if you're building a website or an app, a product management team can help you get all those things right. Product managers tend to come from one of 3 backgrounds. Sometimes they're from a business background, sometimes they're from a technology background, and sometimes they're from some design and user experience background. And any one of those 3 can work well because it's at that sort of hub of all those 3 operations that product management. So there's several advantages. First of all, it's about matching the market opportunity with the business needs. So typically the product management team will have a very deep understanding of the industry that they operate in through doing market research, but they'll also understand the users and the customers, potential customers in that space through doing user research, focus groups and so on. By being internal to the organisation, they'll also know what the business goals in terms of sales targets or strategy for the organisation is, and so they can look for those sweet spots between the market opportunities and the business goals and come up with an idea for a product that fits those needs. Secondly, having a product management organisation can help improve the communication between the different departments in an organisation. So quite often when a website, for example, is being built, there'll be a project manager who goes around, or a business analyst, and gathers requirements from marketing, from sales, from operations, whoever it may be. And that'll be a disjointed set of requirements that don't necessarily work well together. Product management, by acting as a hub, can get everyone in the same room and start to tease out those shared goals that cut across the organisation, and then pull them all together into a coherent idea for a product that works well not just for the business but also for the user. The third advantage, I think, is about reducing risk. So any project carries a certain amount of risk through it. Because by putting in a disciplined product management function, you can reduce that risk because there'll always be a business case for a particular piece of work. Product management can help define those business cases and look at the return on investment. There'll also have been some user research to establish that users actually need the product and the set of features that are being proposed. And lastly, of course, product management can take a long-term view. So any product management organisation will normally maintain a roadmap of what's coming in the product delivery. So which versions of a website, which versions of an app, and when they're planned to be released, so that it's not just a short-term sales target-driven approach to development. It's actually some kind of coherent plan that lasts over the long term. Okay, so I think the first thing, if the organisation doesn't have any experience of product management, it's important to have executive sponsorship. So the CEO or the business unit director needs to understand what product management is and communicate across the organisation that product management is now sort of on board and the reasons for that. Secondly, I think cultural change. So, as I was saying before, in many organisations, technology just gathers requirements from the different business elements, sales, marketing and so on, and builds feature by feature a website or an app. Product management can come in and change that slightly and actually have their own ideas and opinions about what the digital product should be. And that won't necessarily please old people all the time. It's a compromise. They will of course take in requirements from all the different parts of the business, but they'll also make sure that those parts fit together into a coherent whole that users will love and represents the brand of the organisation effectively. So that gives you the sort of cultural and organisational changes. You then need to think about operational side of things. So how do you actually build products? And there it's about several things really. First of all, building a product and technology team that can be agile and respond to change. The usual approach is to come up with something that's called a minimum viable product. So rather than having lots of ideas, say 10 ideas, spending 18 months building each one and then taking them to market only to find that 7 out of 10 will fail, you pick a smaller number of ideas and define what we call a minimum viable product, which is the minimal set of features that give the business and the users some kind of value. Launch that as quickly as you can, and then using analytics and user research, understand whether that's actually working, and if it isn't, evolve the product progressively. And that way you minimise the wastage and you also make sure that the product meets the user's needs. So in an ideal world, if you're building a software product, and this is typically how it's done in Silicon Valley, you'll have a CEO and then you'll have a senior technology person, usually a CTO or an engineering director. Responsibility of that team is to build things. So the architects, the developers, the testers will all sit in that team. Then there'll be a product management team, which will consist of product managers, like I've just talked about, but also user experience, and quite often the visual and graphic design of the site, the website or the app. And then finally, there'll usually be sales and marketing. So those three organisations will report in to the CEO. And one of the key areas of potential tension is usually between the product and the marketing team about, do marketing define what the product should do and product build it? Or do product build a product and marketing then try and persuade the public to use that product? So that's one of the areas you have to be a little bit careful of and make sure that terms of reference and roles and responsibilities are very clearly defined. So I think if you're starting from scratch and trying to establish this organisation, so you've bought into the fact that it's going to add value, first of all we need executive sponsorship. So you need somebody senior to articulate the benefits and give the organisation the support it needs to start doing things effectively. The second one is cultural change. So it's about making sure that you ring the changes and everyone's aware that this is a new way of doing things. And then finally, I think it's just making sure that you continue to communicate that message, not just at the start, but as time goes on. It usually takes 6 to 12 months for something like this to bed in.